So welcome back. This is already the final segment of this week where I give you a summary of opportunities and the opportunity identification process. During this week, we put opportunities to the center stage of what we learned and what we discussed. And this is important because the opportunity forms one core element in your venture creation process. So let's look at what we did in particular. Remember that the business opportunity and the venture team are the core elements of the venture creation process. The business opportunity as such, for one, present the fertile ground on which you create the venture. Some grounds are more fertile than others, and we discussed this, and I'm going to briefly recap that issue in a couple of minutes. And it also shapes the identity of your company, who you are as a firm. So one core element that we discussed over this last week is the opportunity exploitation roadmap. You see it drawn up here on my side, and it basically shows that technologies are fungible, meaning that they can be used to cater to multiple market domains alone and when combined with other types of technologies and competences that you might have. We discussed all of this content of opportunity exploitation and identification in the context of technology entrepreneurship, and oftentimes at the beginning of a technology entrepreneurship journey, you have a technology that you want to commercialize and are in search for a market need. You might wonder, how does this apply to the other way around, meaning you start with a market need and you do not have a technology yet? Actually, it's not so different here, because if you think about it, the process starts with you having a market insight. You develop the technology that could be used to cater to that market domain, that helps you to produce the product to cater to that market domain. And you could ask the very same question that, I have this technology, maybe, given these technological competences, could I cater to other domains, which might be even more interesting than the initial one that I saw, So this market-driven versus technology-driven view actually, oftentimes ends in a gray zone where you could do both. You say I have a technology that allows me to cater multiple market domains, or I start with a market and I see which technology or which technologies could provide that service. In order to understand technological fungibility, we had come up with a 3-step process that is starting with the understanding that you typically have a closely linked technology and market. You develop a technology typically with a purpose, and that purpose is a certain market need, customer need that you had in mind. In order to understand fungibility of a technology, however, you would have to delink that technology from the initial market insight and then relink it to new market options. Within that process, there's an opportunity identification stage, and we talked about this at length as well. We looked at key factors driving the opportunity identification process, i.e. which opportunities can you see and which opportunities can't you see. We saw that this is your alertness, this is your knowledge that you already have, your knowledge of customer segments, customer needs, and it was your cognitive flexibility, meaning can you look at problems from multiple angles? Are you able to zoom in and zoom out from your problems? Overall, this provides you with the ability to identify market opportunities, multiple market opportunities. But this skill can also be augmented by reaching outside, trying to involve other players who might have different repositories of knowledge that can benefit you in opportunity identification, because these people just know about market needs that you might have never heard of. Okay. In sum, this will give you then the opportunity to say we have a technology and we link it to multiple market applications as it's shown in this bottom chart here. This gives you a number of markets that you have identified. And the natural question thus arises, well, which of these market domains provides me with the most fertile ground for new firm creation? As you remember, not all markets are as fertile, as helpful, as supportive in firm creation as other markets. So you want to understand which ones actually give you the best chances for firm success. We've listed here on that slide a couple of these key questions that help you understand your markets, evaluate your markets. And I don't want to walk you through all of these elements again. We have covered them very well and thoroughly in the previous segments. But let's just remind us that we need to understand very well on a very micro level the customer demand, the customer needs. And we need to also understand on a more macro level, how much demand is out there. How many customers with that need are out there and would actually be there to buy our service, our product. So this type of analysis will then give you the opportunity to focus on one opportunity, and you should focus on one opportunity, or at least on very related opportunities, because you don't want to spread yourself too thin. You know, you have limited resources in a startup, limited attention, so you need to focus. So this will then bring us to the overall opportunity exploitation roadmap again. As you see on this slide, we have identified the market opportunity set, the initial one. We have chosen the initial market opportunity, and then we can say, okay, if this one is successful, we are sticking to that market domain and exploit it. And over time, because we are successful, we can then diversify into other domains. Or what we could do is to say, if this market should not work out, we can at least have this market as a plan B. So these are a couple of key points that we discussed during this past week. What I want you to remember is that entrepreneurship in that early stage is a process that is shaped by you and the opportunity that you're seeking to exploit, by the activity and the domain you're engaging in. But I also want you to remember one key thing. You know? You're the entrepreneur, you're in charge. So use this type of approach also to look from the outside onto your venture. You know, you are in charge of saying, I want to go into this market, I want to cater to these customers. So if something doesn't go right, you know, don't feel like a hamster in a wheel and keep on running even faster. Step back and look at your venture from the outside. Because ultimately that's also one of the most beautiful parts of entrepreneurship. You're in charge, you can make the key decisions. You do not have a boss that tells you to make this or that decision, but once in a while you have to remind yourself, this is your firm that you're creating, and look at it from the outside. So with this said, the next segment, the next week, we'll talk about entrepreneurial marketing, and I look forward to seeing you back then. Thank you.